So continuing to look at the advice from the CDC on coping with a disaster or traumatic event. So they gave 6 pieces of advice. The third of these is to take breaks. So specifically they advise to make time to unwind and remind yourself that strong feelings will fade. Try taking in deep breaths. Try to do activities you usually enjoy. So the advice again, take breaks, make time to unwind, and remind yourself that strong feelings will fade. Try taking in deep breaths. Try to do activities you usually enjoy. So, when I first read this, it sort of sounds like it resonates a bit with the concept of meditation. You take a break, you focus on deep breathing, just rest your mind. For example, those things are all associated with meditation, and no question that's beneficial. We can come back to that. But when I thought about it more, I thought about who really needs to take breaks, and I would imagine there are certain people in our community who, in time, as time wears on, may find themselves working extraordinary amounts. I'm thinking mostly of our medical staff, but also anyone else who's in a crisis response capacity. So for these people, they absolutely need to think about taking breaks as an essential part of their care activities. It is actually a critical part of their emergency response activities is taking breaks to rest themselves, to protect their own mental health. And when you're in the heat of a trauma, that is something that you just never think of. You don't want to, or you always oppose, because the discipline is to oppose that mind that wants to stop. You say, oh, that mind is lazy, I won't give in to it. So you try to shut it down and push. But there are many, many risks to pushing endlessly, and it is important, critically important, to rest as we're able, as much as we're able. But the rest of us who are not in this crisis response role, not directly responding to an emergency, and let me add on that parents, for example, or anyone who's caring for someone who's ill, or anyone who's overwhelmed with their work, absolutely we need to think that our ability to rest, recover sleep, improve our mental function, catch our breath, distract ourselves, amuse ourselves. If we have an opportunity for a little bit, take a walk, any of these things, they are restorative for the sake of others. You don't have to be directly engaging with others. When you're saving up your energy, restoring your health, then giving that back, that is also a form of giving. Just like accumulating money so you can donate to a charity is a form of giving. As you're accumulating, you're also giving. You're giving, you're preparing that energy. So we are banking energy. We're banking rest. We're reducing the stress on our system. We're building up our capacity again so we can help, like the way a clinic might rebuild itself temporarily so it can serve people better. In the future, we might replenish our supplies, a truckload of supplies, so we can deliver them again. We need to restore and replenish our mental energy. It's just part of the cycle. Humans move with a rhythm. We have to respect the rhythm. It's nature. We're natural creatures trying to help other natural creatures. And that rhythm of rest is important for us all. What I was going to say is that in addition to the people who are actual caregivers or in a crisis response situation needing to take breaks for themselves, those of us who are not in that situation, we need to have a deep respect for these crisis workers and their need for rest. The last thing anyone needs who's a crisis worker trying to rest and so forth is the judgment of someone saying, hey, why are you resting? Why are you sitting down? Why are you asleep? My wife is in trouble. No one needs that judgment. Everyone is working to the best of their ability, their physical and or mental capacity. We're all doing our best, and that recognition is critically important to allow us to be patient with people. So we don't feel the temptation to put more pressure on an already difficult situation. Putting guilt or pressure on anybody else who's working hard is not going to make the situation better. You're disturbing a stable system, a system that's just barely functioning, and then you add more stress to that system. That necessarily reduces the capacity and the ability of that system. So everyone needs to respect breaks are important. So this specific advice from the CDC: make time to unwind. Unwind, it's such a funny word. We get wound up. Wound means a little bit, there's a tension. We're putting energy in. When you wind something, it gets tighter, right? So we need to unwind, right? There's these you could think of, we say I get knots in my back, knots in my neck. You get these kind of knots. We drive ourselves hard, and it's like these strings and so forth that make up our body or our energetic system or whatever gets wound up, so you need to unwind. So unwinding, take the pressure off. I said to my wife today, I said, wasn't feeling very productive. She's like, why do you need to be productive? She's much more unwound than I am. So she was encouraging me to unwind. And remind yourself that strong feelings will fade. That is a critical part of that advice. It's very condensed advice, right? Remind yourself that strong feelings will fade. Strong feelings, whether they are feelings of depression, fear, anger, excitement, guilt, whatever are the strong feelings, they will fade. That's what feelings do. Our mind always has a way to come back to a neutral state. We sort of gravitate back towards a neutral plane. Normally we're not excited. The natural resting state of the human mind is not depressed, not excited. If we're overexcited all the time, a bit depressed all the time, something a little bit out of balance. So all strong feelings come back to neutral if there's no other force that's disturbing our peace. So just remembering that these feelings will fade is powerful. That's what they're saying. Feelings are impermanent. It's not denying the feeling, right? It's not denying that you are depressed. It's not denying that you are angry. It's recognizing that the feelings are impermanent. And all you have to do is just wait. That's all you have to do. You don't have to fix it. If you're incredibly depressed, you don't have to fix that. Just wait. It takes energy, right, to be that depressed. When you go to sleep, you're actually not depressed when you're sleeping, or certainly not in the same way. It's that you forget about them. You only get depressed when you wake back up. So we need to remember that these feelings will fade, and just knowing that these feelings are impermanent, it allows you to have the patience to say, okay, I'm going to ride this one out. Buckle my seatbelt. I am incredibly angry. I'm going to close myself in this room. I'm going to give it 15 minutes. If 15 minutes doesn't work, I'm going to give it a 30. Give it an hour. Eventually the feelings are going to fade. That is powerful. That's real wisdom there. There's a real wisdom just in that little bit. So the next aspect of this, the CDC advises try taking in deep breaths. It's ironic, right, for coronavirus being a respiratory illness that makes it potentially difficult for us to take deep breaths, but that kind of highlights how essential breathing is to our life, our survival, and the health of our lungs is in fact critical to our ability to fight the disease, this specific disease. Smokers, greater risk, right? People who have some pre-existing medical conditions, they're at greater risk. So we want healthy lungs, right? What are healthy lungs? Healthy lungs are lungs that can expand, take in oxygen, contract, steady breathing, smooth breathing, where we're not taking intoxicants into our lungs, not damaging them with vaping or cigarettes or whatever. trying to not breathe too much polluted air, but so much of it is just posture, right? And this is what Buddhism meditation gets famous for, is all this breathing meditation, sitting there, and strong posture. But of course, there's so much more to it than that. But this is something that meditation is famous for. People just think that it is a posture thing. That's all it is. So why do all these meditators pictured sitting up straight and so forth? Why? Well, because you got to stretch out your spine and spread out your arms so you can actually breathe and not have this tight, compressed, lung capacity. So I'm sitting here, breathe deeply. If my posture's all hunched over, breathe deeply. Oh, it's hard to breathe deeply because I don't actually have well-developed muscles in my back and shoulders, right? Because they're muscles, they're just muscles, right? If I took my shirt off, you'd see how pale I was, for one, and you'd see it's just muscles, right, on the chest. So we need a good posture, right? Take deep breaths. When I was working on a work project a few years ago, someone just casually afterwards, they're like, I notice you, it was actually a very stressful work project. They said, I notice you take these really deep breaths. We're really noticing that. We were discussing what deep breaths you regularly take. You're just in mid-conversation, you just breathe. I don't even know that I do it. I don't even realize that I'm doing it. It's just some habit that's been built over time. So you can build these habits where you just breathe. So why was he noticing me take these deep breaths? Probably because instinctively, just through the force of habit, I felt like my mind was not quite right. I was a little bit agitated. So you think about it, right? You have something difficult to say to somebody else, someone, a difficult emotional situation to wade into. What are you going to do? You take a deep breath. Okay. You pause, you relax. Okay. We need to talk. Why do we do that instinctively? Because there's something, they talk about this vagus nerve in our belly. They talk about the mechanism of our diaphragm. Moving your diaphragm, with some belly breathing or deep chest breathing or whatever, it stimulates these internal nerves, and it stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system. I mean, if you read books on meditation, they'll tend to lead with this stuff these days, but stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, stimulates a relaxation response. Herb Benson, made the whole enterprise, mindfulness empire, just from this book, The Relaxation Response. There's a reflex, like hitting your knee. You just bang your knee and your leg flicks, right? Reflex. Stimulate your vagus nerve, parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, and I feel better. Why do you feel better? Why do you feel better? Because your neurotransmitters have changed, right? This is not my specialty, right? There's some dopamine released, or serotonin. I don't even know what the neurotransmitters are. The right neurotransmitters come in. Your physical stress relaxes. Like if I'm like this, there's muscle tension, there's physical tension, right? When you stretch your body, you can't retain physical tension. I can't have a tense arm if my arm is relaxed, if it's extended. So if you relax the muscle, you can't simultaneously tense it down. So whatever tension we're holding in our body, you can't have deep breaths and hold the tension at the same time. It just doesn't work. Like, you can't have my arm tense like this and have it relax out at the same time. So you just have to choose. And if you've consciously chosen to take deep breaths, you just can't be a stressed out, knotted up, tangled, tense person anymore. Just try taking in deep breaths. This advice is not hard, right? So I'm not saying sit and meditate. I'm not saying have beautiful posture. I'm not saying light incense. I'm not saying go to sign up for yoga class. Just try taking a deep damn breath. I feel better, right? Even now, I feel better every moment that I do that. It's just so darn easy. And then if you think that makes you feel better, well, try just having a good posture in general all through the day. Just try breathing. with open chest and on a regular basis all through the day, well, you're going to feel a lot better by the end of that day, right? So whatever, I feel like when I came into the working world, I had some advantage actually over some of my peers because I was pretty relaxed in the face of pressure and stress, and I was just peaceful and happy. So the only advantage, well, I mean, the main, a big part of the advantage that I had is just some familiarity with this, just taking deep breaths, emotional regulation 101. And that was why I was also incredibly impressed with my coworkers who were consultants, right, who pretty well regulated emotions. You need pretty well regulated emotions to be a consultant. So, these people had built those skills themselves over a period of time. They were very self aware compared to many people in society. So I was very lucky to find myself with that group. But anybody can learn. Take a deep breath. Just try taking a deep breath. You'll feel better. And then do it again and again and again. Not hyperventilating. so there's a more balanced way of taking deep breaths. But okay. And the final little snippet of advice in the CDC's advice: try to do activities that you usually enjoy. Try to do activities that you usually enjoy. So we've got some go-to enjoyments. There's things we usually enjoy. It means they don't always cheer us up. Petting my dog, I can still be angry, I suppose. Maybe it doesn't always work. But that implies getting to know ourselves a little bit. If you know what you usually enjoy, it means you've gotten to know yourself a little bit. That actually takes some time. I feel better when I take a walk. It's actually takes some learning, and that's why being middle-aged has its benefits. But you can also be very observant of yourself. You can figure out what you enjoy. You can remember. Now, there's a bit of a fine line between. Well, there's a few fine lines you can cross with this activity, but reminiscing. Remembering. Oh, I really had such a wonderful time when I was in Prague when I was 14 years old or whatever. I've got to get back to Prague. No, you don't. You don't have to get back to Prague. You have to get back to that state of mind that you're reminiscing about, right? That state of mind, though, is not going to come back when you go to Prague, right? Because that state of mind wasn't caused by Prague. That state of mind was caused by you being 14 in the exact situation you were in then, and Prague being exactly the way it was then. And it all came together and you felt better. But you need to understand that you're just learning to work with your mind. And it's like working with your mind with props. Now, if you've gotten good at meditation, you can just control your mind. You just decide you're going to feel better. You just make yourself feel better. Well, that was easy. But for most people, you rely on an activity to make you feel better. When I talk to this person, I feel better. When I go to this place, this is my favorite restaurant, I feel better. So they're a little bit like crutches, to be honest, that you have to trick yourself into this situation to sort of stimulate a certain mental experience. But, if you've got a broken leg, you need crutches, right? So at the same time that we need to build our inner strength to just make ourselves happy, we also need to learn the things that make us feel good. Even when I was a monk, my go-to favorite comfort food was a burrito from Chipotle. So when I would go there because I was legitimately hungry, but it was a bit of an indulgence, a bit of expensive indulgence for me. But you kind of, and I'd take a walk at the park, and you kind of learn the things that make you feel better. And so try to use those things again to sort of return, but recognize that they are a crutch, right? And so if you go back to your favorite activities again and again, but they're just not making you happy, well, it doesn't mean you're never going to get happy. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be happy. It means that you need to build the inner strength and the inner capability to be happy. Taking a walk was never going to make you happy. That, being in a particular place, that's not what made you happy. It's the emotional state. It's learning how to get back to that emotional state. And that actually takes building our emotional strength and skill, like I was talking about previously about abstaining from intoxicants, the strength of that, the power that builds in your mind. But we have to understand that these things are not going to make us happy, but maybe they can be useful as a reminder of that happy state, to get us back into that happy state. And at the same time that we're enjoying them, we need to not lean on them too heavily, so we can build more and more the ability to just be happy, mentally happy and peaceful, even in their absence.